Padangusthasana begins the standing postures of Ashtanga Yoga. So after we do Surya Namaskara A, Surya Namaskara B, we begin the standing postures with Padangusthasana. So from the top of our mat, we're in Samasthiti after our last Surya Namaskara B. We separate the feet hip-width distance apart. Some people like to hop the feet, which is kind of fun. If you like to hop, you can hop the feet apart, hip-width distance apart. And I like to begin with the hands on the hips, and beginning with a mini back bend. So this idea that we'll revisit again and again as we go through these postures of creating space as we move into a posture is so important to experience the posture with a sense of spaciousness. And I think it's also healthier for the joints and more sustainable for our bodies long term. So we're gonna use this idea of creating space, but first we need to root down and connect into the earth. So pressing down through the four corners of the feet. And you want to get this sense of like you're pressing down into the feet so much that you're ready to jump off of the ground. But it's like your feet are stuck on the floor, so you're not going to get anywhere. So you're pressing down with the motivation to jump, but you're not going to actually jump. But you're pressing down with that emphasis through the four corners of each foot. And then counteracting that pressing down with the arches lifting up. And see if you can relax the toes. Sometimes we have this tendency to grip the floor with our toes. And I think that just creates extra tension in the feet that isn't necessary. So we're constantly trying to find ways to use our energy efficiently in this practice. So how can we create integrity and stability in the body and as we connect to the earth, without engaging anything that's not absolutely necessary to engage. So releasing wherever we can, whenever we can, so that energy can continue to flow through the body without restraining it. Okay, so relax the toes. Long-winded way of saying relax the toes. Press down through the four corners of the feet, lift the arches, lift the kneecaps. Maybe you micro bend the knees, and like so little, I'm micro bending the knees, you can barely tell. But that helps to protect the joints in all of these standing postures. If you micro bend the knees, and we'll revisit this in the other standing postures, it'll help to just keep the hamstrings safe, because our hamstrings are attaching down into the knees and they're attaching up into the sit bones. So if we just micro bend a little bit, we'll have the stretch of our hamstrings go into the meat of the muscle as opposed to like at the attachments. So micro bending the knees can really help with that. So we're pressing down, we're lifting the arches, we're lifting the kneecaps, we're engaging the legs as we keep pressing down, hands to the hips. And then we're going to counteract all of that downward moving energy with the heart reaching up. But be careful not to go into like a back bend where the sit bones are lifting away from the floor. Keep the tailbone dropping as you lift the heart. So it's like a mini back bend, and move the shoulders away from the ears, and then lift the chin without collapsing the back of the neck. Lift and lengthen the back of the neck. And take a deep breath in here. And then as we move into the posture, we're going to start to lift the sit bones and reach the heart forward. So we're creating space as we move into it. And do this really slowly. You might notice something that you didn't notice before. And then you'll get to a point where your hamstrings are like, okay, I don't want to keep going anymore. You have the limit of the hamstring flexibility. So then you're going to catch the big toes. And then here we have like a sort of Trini moment where you want to press through the feet, draw the lower belly in, and reach the heart forward. So find that Trini moment that we broke down in the Trini video. And then as you exhale, you're going to keep moving into it, but you're going to keep those actions of pressing through the feet and reaching the heart forward as you move into it. So the heart reaching forward becomes a function of moving down into the forward fold. So it feels like you're moving the rib cage away from the hips as you move into the posture. And at the very end, what's happening here is you're relaxing the muscles along the spine and sort of rounding the back just a little bit, and that's what takes you into the final expression of this posture. Once you're here, again, press through the feet, lift the kneecaps, lift the arches, draw the lower belly in, and then you can feel like some space is being created in front of the hips and in front of the pelvis. So you're hollowing out the front of the pelvis, and that scooping action is going to help you find a little bit more space to fold into this as deep as the body is able to for you in this moment. Drawing the lower belly in and releasing the muscles along the spine, including the neck. And so you want to point the elbows out to the side. You do have the option of pointing the elbows back, which some people do, but I personally like pointing them out to the side because I feel like that helps me to keep the chest nice and open so we don't collapse the heart, which we'll talk a lot about. So you want to keep the heart open and reaching towards the floor. And I think pointing the elbows out to the side helps to keep that nice and open. So even though we're folding forward or moving into ourselves, the heart stays open. And the crown of the head moves towards the mat, and the neck stays relaxed. So you want to keep a lot of space between the ears and the shoulders, moving the shoulders away from the ears. And then check in with the grip that you have on the toes. Softly grip the toes. So you're not like holding onto the toes for dear life, which I see so many times, and then the knuckles start getting white. Soften the toes. Soften the toes, but soften the grip so you don't have such an intense grip. And then if you need to, bend the knees because you feel a lot of tugging at the hamstring attachments, either behind the knees or at the sit bones, then bend the knees. And sometimes bending the knees can be super helpful to help us release the muscles in the lower back, which we want. We want to lengthen the muscles of the lower back. So if that's feeling really difficult, then bend the knees so that the torso has something to rest on, so that the backside can really relax and release. Okay, and then one final piece. If you feel like you're on the tighter side, then imagine your sit bones lifting up and spreading away from each other as you root the heels down. So the heels move down and the sit bones lift up and away from each other. If you feel like you're hypermobile, then think about the opposite. Think about bringing the sit bones towards each other. And that might be what you need to feel more integrated in the posture. So, we all coming with like different strengths and different weaknesses, and it's important to know those so that you can work with them to find a place of integration and balance in the posture. So if you're tight, you want to move in the opposite direction that the body wants to take you in. So if you're tight, then the body maybe want to go into a position where the tailbone is super dropped and you're like this. So bring in the opposite of lifting and spreading the sit bones. But if you're super hypermobile and the body just like wants to be there and likes to be there, then think about bringing the sit bones in towards each other, and that might help you to really come into the deep space of the pelvis and help you find this more release through the spine and more strengthening through the foundation of the legs. All right, a lot of things coming together.